Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post for Rosh Hashana is titled A Royal Message. Because in the past couple of weeks, we've seen after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, there's been an outpouring of emotion and appreciation and a sense of wanting to be connected in some way to the Queen and what she stood for, and in some way being able to show our appreciation for the royal family, for the institution of royalty. And we've seen on the news the thousands of people in the United Kingdom and around the world, but coming and arriving in their thousands to be part of the procession, to be part of this historic event, and being able to share memories and stories and to be connected in some way, showing their deep appreciation and respect for the royal family and for the Queen. And I think the significance of this cannot be ignored as we prepare and come up towards Rosh Hashana. Because as a central concept in Rosh Hashana is the idea of Malchus, of royalty, that on Rosh Hashana we anoint Hashem as our king. And in the Rosh Hashana davening in Musaf, Malchus is a central aspect of the davening as well, recognizing and appreciating what it means that Hashem is our king. So last year I actually discussed the idea of authority, what it means to have a king, and how this understanding of royalty in this world and how we are able to develop a relationship and understand and appreciate Malchus and the Hashem as our king and how it influences our relationships in our life. So I would like to develop this a little bit further now in wake of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Because when we see these images and we see the deep appreciation for the Queen and the understanding of royalty, we can understand that royalty and the role of royalty is to develop yira, which is fear. I don't mean fear, which is an anxiety disorder, which is discussed in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatric Disorders, but we're talking about yira, which is a positive quality. It's something that develops respect, deep appreciation, and a sense of duty and obligation to the royalty, to the king or the queen. And there's it's fear, which as we said is rooted in respect and appreciation. But yira, and when we talk about the relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and yira shamayim, it's quite an obscure concept, and it's difficult to understand and to develop it. And therefore, the role of royalty in this world and having a king or a queen is a way of having a human person that we can connect to and can be used as a conduit to be able to connect with them and channel our respect, first of all, to the human being, to the human king or queen. And this can be a way as a channeling to be able to move up towards developing Yira Shamayim, fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is similar as an explanation. This relates to the Pasuk in Parashat Shoftim, when we read about the mitzvah to appoint a king over the Bnei Yisrael. When the Pasuk says, and the Bnei Yisrael will ask for a king to be like all the other nations. They want to have a king like everybody else. And the Kli Yakar asks, if there is a mitzvah to appoint a king, then why, when we see later on, in the time of Shmuel, when Shmuel appoints Shaul HaMelech, why is this event painted in a negative light? And the Kli Yakar suggests that the reason why Hashem agreed or wanted there to be a king is a way of creating an institution of royalty that can help the people to develop a sense of fear. That there could be yira through the king. That the institution of Malchus, of having a role of royalty, is a way of developing and establishing yira. But when they asked for a king, the Bnei Yisrael said, "Give us a king," rather than appoint over us a king. And the difference is that when they said, "Give us a king," they wanted to remain in control. They wanted to have a sense of control still. It's almost like they were saying, we want to appoint a king rather than anoint a king. We don't want somebody over us. We don't want to have this sense of emotion of fear, being in a position of fear for the royalty. We want to appoint the king. We want you to give us a king. So we see in this request, the Bnei Yisrael, there was this element, this ingredient of yira, of fear was lacking. And that was why when they asked for a king, it was a negative. It's painted in a negative light. So we see that this idea of Malchus, of royalty, is a way of being able to develop yira. And yira, what is the point of yira? How does yira help us in preparation for Rosh Hashana? So we see in the Hakdama for Mesilas Yesharim which is a Musa Sefer. And as a Musa Sefer is a way of helping us to develop our character, to perfect our behavior, and to change the way that we behave. And in the Hagdama, in the introduction, it says, it brings the pasuk in Parshas Eikev and says, what does Hashem request from us? What does Hashem want from the Bnei Yisrael? Only that we should have fear for Hashem. And it seems to be that it's suggesting that the Mesilas Yesharim is saying that Yira is a vital ingredient to be able to bring about change, to be able to change our character and to perfect our personality. And this is what the pasuk is saying, that we just need to have Yira Shamayim. But the question which is asked in Brachos, in the Gemara Brachos, is Yira Shamayim such a simple thing? The pasuk is saying we just need to have Yira for Hashem. But is it really such a simple thing? Is it such a small thing? And the Gemara answers yes. For Moshe Rabbeinu, it is. And the obvious question on this is that the pasuk is relating to the whole of Bnei Yisrael. It's for every person, for everyone in the Bnei Yisrael. It's saying you should have Yira Shamayim. Not just Moshe Rabbeinu, and not everyone is on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu to say yes, it's an easy thing. So what is the Gemara saying? The Soloveitchik suggests that there should be a comma after the word Moshe. That yes, for Moshe, comma, it is easy. Meaning to say that it is easier, or it's easy to have Yira for Moshe Rabbeinu. As a leader, someone in a position of authority, as a human being, it's easier for us to develop Yira for this human leader, and therefore we can then develop, as a consequence to that, by extension, we can develop Yira Shamayim. And that is what the pasuk is saying. So we see here the position of authority, the authority figure, the leader. Royalty is a way of being able to, in this world, is a way of being able to develop Yira Shamayim. So what do we do with this? We want to change. We understand that Yira is an important factor, Yira Shamayim. What do we do with it now? How do we use that to change our character and personality as we prepare for Rosh Hashana? So I think we have to look at the continuation of the pasuk. It says, "Leleches b'chol drachav," because ultimately Yira Shamayim, as we said, is difficult. It's difficult to grasp. Maybe now we can understand it on a cognitive level. We can appreciate what it means to have Yira that leads to respect and devotion and appreciation. Perhaps even on an emotional level, we will then develop real fear and Yira Shamayim. But it's difficult. And I think this is what the vital ingredient of the leches b'drachav comes in. There's not just cognitions and emotions. There's also behavior within the CBT triangle. Behavior also has a vital role to play, and that's the leches b'chol drachav, to walk in His ways, to copy the way, to use HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to use a leader, as a king, as someone to look up to as an example and to copy their ways. Because on Rosh Hashana, and during the Slichas davening, we say many times the Yud Gimel Midos of Hashem Hashem Kel Rachum V'Chanun, etc. And these are not just words that we should say, but words that we should do, when we need to put them into action. That we ourselves should also be Rachum V'Chanun, Erech HaPayim V'Av Chesed. This is something that we want to put into action as well, and to walk in the ways of Hashem. And through this, hopefully, we'll get a sense of appreciation of Yiras Hashemayim, to imitate Hashem's ways, to go in His ways, and this will help us to change our behavior and to have a year which is going to be a successful year, and it will help us to prepare for the long walk that is ahead of us. And I wish you a good Shabbos, keep well, Shana Tova, Kesiva V'Chesima Tova.